Selwyn here from WynnStrength.com, bringing you the third part of the video series talking about the Safety Squat Barbell or the Safety Squat Yoke Barbell by EliteFTS. Video 1, which I'll link here, talks about why the EliteFTS Safety Squat Yoke Barbell is probably one of the best options you can find on the market today. Video 2 talks about why you should make the SSB or the SS Yoke Barbell the first specialty barbell that you buy in your home gym. And then finally, on this video, we're going to be talking about the different exercises you can do with the Safety Squat Barbell, as well as the basic, some tips and tricks for the basic safety bar squat, which we're going to replace the regular low bar back squat with. So here we go. So there is an upright way and an upside down way to set up the Safety Squat Barbell. Obviously, when you put it on the rack, when it hangs like this and the angle is there, this is probably going to be the right side up, just because when you lift it up underneath you, over the top of you, you're going to have the weight camber there. Upside down, you would be pushing it the other way, where the weight camber is a lot higher than if it was this way. You notice that the weight is a little bit lower on that side than it is when you pop it up this way. And we'll go talking about the differences as to why you want to do one over the other. But we're going to stick with the introductory. The main type of squat you'll be doing with the safety squat barbell is the regular old squat that everyone kind of does. So getting under the barbell is pretty simple. Obviously, you just kind of get under it and you find the padding. Keep your shoulder blades tight together like you would with a normal squat, except instead of obviously having to reach out here and really torque the elbows out the back, we're going to be pinching our shoulder blades together, but keeping our elbows in as tight as possible and kind of gripping the handle wherever you feel is most comfortable. I find lunging under it to get under it when the weight gets heavier is a nice way to do it, and then swinging up and then standing up with it is a good way to do it. Another way is to kind of get underneath it with a squat stance like usual, and then just stand up and then take a step back. Obviously, I would take a step back. I wouldn't be taking a step forward, just so you can see more of the barbell without the rack posts in the way. And then the other thing you want to think about is whereabouts on the shoulder do you want to keep it. And then this will take some experimenting with the first time you've used the barbell, but generally I like to keep it where, without me holding the handles, it's just going to stay on the back. It's not going to be pushing me forward. If I have it too high, you'll feel this pressure on the back of your neck, which isn't comfortable. And if you put it too low, it's obviously going to start sliding back off the back. So there is a nice range of where the yoke can kind of sit. And what differentiates the EliteFTS from a lot of others is the fact that the pad really is more of a yoke than it is just a padding there, because it does wrap around the shoulders a lot more. So when you do that, you'll feel the pressure kind of evenly spaced across your traps and your shoulders and like your rear delts to a degree. And there shouldn't really be any pressure on the neck. So just like with a regular barbell, you can change the stance width to however you really want, depending on what feels comfortable for you and what type of movement you want to do. You can obviously take more of a narrow shoulder width stance with your toes pointed slightly out. And as you widen that width, the stance width out, you're obviously going to have to point the toes up more to accommodate the legs as you squat down. I like a slightly wider than shoulder width stance with toes anywhere from like 30 to 45 degrees pointed out. And squatting is like usual. With the yoke and the camber, you're going to have two things here. You're either going to want to keep your back upright and fight the weight pulling you forward, or you want to go along with that weight pulling you forward and really work on that lower back. So again, it depends on how you want to use this tool. For the most part, you just want to keep the handles in a neutral position. So I achieve that by pulling forward. So I'm generally trying to pull the barbell, the pad, into my shoulders even further to maintain that tightness as I squat down. So as you squat down, you're kind of pulling the handlebars forward and you're not really wanting to make if you can look at the corner of your eyes, you really don't want this to be doing this as you squat down. And again, everything stays the same. You want to breathe and brace into the core. You want to flex that lower back so everything maintains rigidity. You really want to treat this like a regular squat, because it really is just another squat. You just want to make sure all the basics are in there. And all we're really trying to address and change is what we do with the differences with the barbell. So there's a couple of little tweaks. There's two other ways you can treat the handlebars. One of the ways is to pull the handlebars into you. So when you pull the handlebars in, you're bringing the weight camber slightly more in line with a regular barbell. But what you're doing is activating some more upper back. And if you're a person that has some loose upper back when you squat, you're trying to work on maintaining upper back tightness or eliciting a bit more muscle growth in your upper back, pulling the handlebars forward is really going to help you engage those lats, because you're actively pulling the barbell down as opposed to out. You're pulling them down. And as you squat down, you're just forced to maintain this tightness in the upper lats. And you really feel it, especially if you do higher rep sets, you're really going to feel the lat tightness kicking in there. And the third final option is to push them up slightly. So when you push them up, you notice the camber changes angle again. So rather than being in that neutral position, we're pushing it up and a bit further away from our center of gravity. And what that's going to do is it's going to help us either maintain a more upright torso positioning. So if you have some lower back pain that stems from having a horizontal back angle during a squat, you can keep that handlebar up. And as you squat down, it's really going to change it. I usually have to bring the stance in a little bit, and then it's really going to change it so that you're staying in a more upright position, much like a front squat, where your upper torso stays very upright in order to maintain that balance offset. You can see that the weight pitches forward, so it's really maintaining an upright back angle as we progress through the reps there. And the other thing it does do is by pushing the weight forward, if you do want to get a more horizontal back angle, it turns it into more of like a Good Morning hybrid, where now it's really at the bottom. It's really pulling you forward a lot more, because that weight is driving you. That weight is really driving you forward and wanting to tip you forward. And what that's going to do is train the lower back, because you are in that more horizontal back angle. It's going to help you fight against a regular barbell squat. When you start to Good Morning the squat, the weight gets too heavy and your hips rise a bit too fast. This can help mitigate some of those form factors that start to pop up when the weights get heavy. So one thing you need to keep in mind when the weights start to get heavy is how the weight's going to act on the ascent of the movement. So as you descend, the weight's going to be fine. It's going to be all fine and dandy. And it's when you start the ascent, there's a tendency when the weight gets heavy for it to kind of buck forward, just because the way the body angles start to move, and your hips might shoot up just a little bit. And there's going to be this pulling forward, and it's really going to have to force you to fight that coming back. Ideally, it doesn't get that way. You don't let the weight buck you forward, you control it. But there are going to be times, it's happened to me, where you're going to fail a rep and you're going to look back at the video and you're going to see this slight split second where the weight catches forward and just pulls you down forward and buckles you almost. So it's this point where you stand up, and then if you're not completely balanced and the weight's super heavy, it's going to get you with that drive, and you're going to think it's fine up until about here. And then it's going to, as it drives you forward, it's just going to staple you to the floor. So that's something to remember when you do start failing reps, when you start pushing those heavier and heavier weights. It's kind of inevitable with the training that's probably going to pop up at least once, and you're going to learn how to correct it by fighting through it. If you really want to cheat, as it comes up, you can push on your thighs, but all else fails, learn from it, reduce the weight, and keep working on that form. So that kind of wraps it up for the regular squat performed with an SS Yoke barbell. There's going to be people that tell you not to pull it, not to push the handles, where to put it on the back. And at the end of the day, think of it as a tool. None of them are, no one's really wrong when they talk about whether you push or pull or have it higher or lower on the back. Find what's comfortable for you, what works without any joint issues, any pain issues that might arise from using it, and your skill level as well. So if you're just starting off with this, just squat, get familiar with the barbell. Don't go maximal. Maybe stick to 60% of your 1 RM. It's actually going to have quite a transition, quite a shift in weight that you can use. So my current 1 rep max for the squat is 465. My current 1 rep max for the safety squat is 440. So there's about a 20-pound difference. So keep that in mind. It's not gonna, the strength from a regular barbell isn't gonna transfer directly over to the safety squat because it is shifting mechanics. It is shifting the weight center of gravity, things like that. So keep that in mind. Don't be too disheartened if you can't load up the safety squat with the same amount of weight you use for the regular barbell. It's not gonna happen for a while. You're gonna train with it. You're gonna have to get used to how your body moves under the barbell. And if you're trying to attack different weaknesses, use it to address certain deficiencies in your squat. Maybe you do need to push up. Maybe you do need to pull in the handles. Maybe you need to adopt a more wider stance, keep that torso more upright or bend it forward more. None of these things are inherently wrong. They're just different tools to attack different problems that you may have with your own training and your own weaknesses in order to bring up that main squat. And also, if you are dealing with some shoulder issues, this is a great barbell to use as a replacement for the squat. Maybe not for all the squats, but at least for the heavy squats. That's what I've done in my recent training last couple of months, is substituted out my heavy singles and heavy volume work. Instead of doing those with the regular barbell, I'm performing all of those with the safety squat barbell and performing all of my accessory movements with the regular barbell. So that in itself, that little switch has helped me mitigate any shoulder pain, any shoulder issues that I'm facing. And it is allowing me to train a little bit with more frequency rather than before, where I was starting to get some shoulder issues with the low bar back positioning on my shoulders. So what I'll do now is we'll move over to just a bunch of other exercises that I found that's possible to do with the safety squat yoke bar. So the first movement out is the upside down SSB squats. So all you do is flip the SS yoke on the other side. You notice the logo isn't visible on this side, and all we're doing is shifting the weight balance a bit more forward and a bit more up. So it forces you to keep a bit more of an upright back angle. I would not recommend doing a hands-free version with this one, just because that weight is off center there. Next movement is the wide grip SSB. So what we're doing here is gripping the angles on the way down and just a little bit different of a back activation. If you're having extra shoulder issues, this is a good way to practice your wide grip low bar back squat. If you use a regular barbell and you press out on the plates, just another variant there to distribute your weight on the arms as well, with a bit more padding on the shoulders. Here we have the hands-free SSB squat. So again, just not using the handles there. When you add weight, it starts to balance a little bit better on the shoulders because the weight is pulling you forward, and the handles there are acting as a counterbalance. I wouldn't worry about it falling off of your back. Just engaging a bit more core and stability there. And if it does get difficult, you can do some assisted SSB hands-free squats where you just push up on the thighs. Gives you a little bit of extra drive there. You'll notice a more horizontal back angle. I allow you to drive probably when you get more tired with the hands-free version. Here we have my favorite variant is the Hatfield Squat. So you set up a barbell right around hip height. You'll have to play around with this depending on your body dimensions. But I find right around where the hip crease is, that's where the extra barbell goes. I use the safety pins to throw that there, and you just hold on to that barbell during the squat. It allows you to lean back a fair bit more, as well as pull yourself up to get a bit of an overload version of the squat, so you can do a bit more of a high rep with a heavier weight than you normally would be able to. If you don't have access to a second set of pins or a second barbell, you can hold onto the rack itself. Not my favorite version, just because the width of the shoulders has a tendency to drive that barbell off your back.
Here we have the SSB Front Squat. So you just, again, load it like a regular barbell. If you have shoulder issues or wrist pain with a front squat and you don't have wrist wraps, you have access to the SSB variant. It's a bit more comfortable. Again, you're still having to maintain that upright back angle because the weight camber kind of puts it right in the middle of the foot. Naturally, you can also do a hands-free version or a zombie version of this, where your hands just stay at the front. A lot more comfortable than a regular barbell because you do have that padding there to help absorb some of that weight. Here we have Zercher Squats with the SSB. You could probably take the handles out just to get a bit more extra room, but if you squat out wide enough, I noticed that the handles wouldn't really touch the legs there. Because of the wider diameter of the SSB, it doesn't hurt the elbows as much. And then we can convert over to a front carry position where it's very similar, but instead of holding it on the barbell, you're kind of trying to hug the padding, similar to like a stone carry or a stone squat or a sandbag front load. You can also do front carries with this if you don't have access to a stone or a sandbag or anything like that. You can just load it up with a weight and go for a walk. And again, you can do regular lunges with the SSB. You can go from a regular front squat where you're stepping forward and back, alternating legs, or you can keep the legs in the same position. I quite like the rear squat where you step backwards rather than forwards. A bit better balance there, and you're loading the front knee slightly less because you're not coming forward with all that weight. And it is a little bit less shear forces on the kneecap. You can also go for walking lunges as well with this. What's great is it gives your hands free to balance if you need that. And then again with the lunges, we just throw in a pad at the back or a bench at the back, and you can elevate that rear leg. Again, if you have balance issues, your hands can be free. So if you have a barbell or a post in front of you, you can hold that just to maintain some balance. And we move on to the Good Morning, another great variant to use with the SSB. It does pitch that weight forward again, just like a regular squat. So you will notice you won't be able to use as heavy of a weight with the Good Mornings with the SSB, just because that angle is getting a bit further away from the hips than it is with a regular barbell. You notice that weight isn't sitting where it would be with a regular straight barbell, so it is pulling you forward a bit more, which makes it a great variant. I would play around with where you put the handles. You can push them up, pull them down, change where that weight distribution is going, and again, try and think about shooting your hips backwards rather than bending forwards. Another variant is the upper back Good Morning. For this one, I would load it up and do this for time. So you want to think of higher reps for this one. It really helps build that upper back and maintain that tension in the upper back during a regular squat or a squat with the SSB. But again, I would think of this for more of like how many reps can you do in a certain time frame, or think of the upper ranges of 20 reps and above. Here we have a single leg Good Morning, so something you can't really do with a regular barbell, just because you can use that supporting hand to maintain your balance here, and you don't have to worry about this sliding off of your back. Not really going to be able to load up a lot of weight, obviously, and then we can change this over to a pistol squat. Again, something you can't really do with a regular barbell if you don't have that balance. So again, you can hold onto the uprights there and maintain balance during the entire squat on the one leg. Here we have various deadlift variations, so use your imagination here. You can do like hybrid sumo conventional ones where your hands are just about the same spacing as your legs. That thicker diameter grip is going to challenge the grip, so it's kind of a good way to do that. Play around with foot positioning, hand positioning, and that camber is probably going to roll it down, so you probably want to start off with a relatively light weight, well, a lot lighter than you would with a conventional deadlift. And you can transition over to some shrugs with it. Again, it'll help with that grip strength. I would probably not use straps there. And then you can go out to a super wide grip on that camber, kind of lets you get that super wide grip, much wider than a snatch grip variant, just because the angle of the wrist is a little bit more comfortable. And you can do deadlifts with that or shrugs with that. Here we use it as a bicep device, so hammer curls. Again, this will really help with the grip as well and the wrist strength, just because those handles are going to be slick, maybe chalk up. And then just regular, you convert over to regular barbell curls where you hold it upright. That camber of the weight and the rotation is going to add a different dimension. And we can also hit the triceps where we have the handles and you just stand it upright and you do some overhead tricep extensions. Again, just be mindful of that grip. Make sure it doesn't slide down and you lose grip and drop that barbell. But you are able to get a little bit more of a deeper extension there rather than a regular barbell. So we have just overhead pressing. Again, just another variant. Changes the way the weights are playing, shifts to a slightly more unstable overhead press variant. So it's a great way to add a bit more volume and hypertrophy if that's what you're looking for without having to load up too much with the weight. It adds that off balance nature of the SSB with the camber of the weight. So again, helping with that stability and anti-rotation. And here's one of the great things with the EliteFTS SS Yoke is you take those handles off and you can do a JM press. So it's a hybrid close grip bench press with a skull crusher. And you're going to use those pads as a guide to kind of touch the chest and use them as a lever arm. So you can get a bit more of a press as well as an extension there on the chest. And I would slowly lower it to your head and then press up. A great way to get a bit more volume into those triceps. So that wraps up for all the movements. I hope you found this helpful. Leave a comment below if I left out any movements that you use your SSB yoke bar with. This is Selwyn from Wynn Strength, and remember, a better life through strength.